Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha, watching the large screen that showed the edge of human space. The coffee in his hand had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. For 3 weeks now, strange ships had been appearing at the border of their territory. They came, they watched, and then they left. No one knew what they wanted. The first report had come from Captain Steve Rogers of the mining vessel Lucky Strike. He was hauling or from the asteroid belt when his sensors picked up something unusual. A ship unlike anything in human design was following him at a distance. When Steve changed course, the ship changed course too. When he stopped, it stopped. When he called for help, it vanished. Amy Rodriguez walked up to Jake with a datapad in her hands. She was the best intelligence officer in the fleet, and her face showed worry. "Sir, we have 17 more sightings today," she said. "These ships are not just random. They are following specific patterns, our patrol routes, our trade ships, even civilian traffic." Jake took the datapad and looked at the information. Red dots marked where the alien ships had been seen. The pattern was clear. They were studying human movement. "What do you think they want?" he asked. "I think they are learning how we move," Amy replied. "Every ship they follow, every route they watch, it all points to one thing. They want to know how humans behave in space." On the other side of the galaxy, Strategic Coordinator Vex 7 of the Zephyrian Empire studied the same data from a different perspective. The holographic display in front of him showed human space with tracking lines marking every ship movement they had observed. To Vex 7. This was just another routine study before conquest. The Zephyrian Empire had perfected the art of war through prediction. Their quantum sensors could analyze any species and tell them exactly where that species would move next. For over 200 years, this method had never failed. They had conquered 17 different civilizations using the same approach: watch, learn, predict, and strike. The humans appear to follow standard patterns. Reported Analysis Coordinator Zek 4. Trade ships move between resource points and population centers. Military vessels patrol in defensive formations. Civilian craft travel along established safe routes. Nothing unusual for a developing space civilization, Vex 7 nodded. Every species they had studied showed the same basic patterns: survival instinct, resource gathering, territory defense. These were universal drives that created predictable movement. The algorithms that mapped these patterns had worked on insectoid hive minds, crystalline collective intelligences, and even energy-based life forms. Humans would be no different. Back on Earth Defense Station Alpha, Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Amy, I want you to contact Captain Ben Parker on the research ship Endeavor. Tell him to investigate these alien contacts. Take Dr. Lisa Grant and her behavioral analysis team. I want to know what these aliens are after." Dr. Lisa Grant had spent her career studying how different species moved and behaved in space. She had worked with dolphin navigators from Europa, the methodical engineers from Mars colonies, and even the chaotic traders from the Outer Rim. When Amy Rodriguez contacted her about the alien watchers, Lisa knew this was the most important assignment of her life. The Endeavor was humanity's most advanced research vessel. It carried sensors that could detect quantum fluctuations, behavioral analysis computers, and a crew trained to study unknown life forms. Captain Ben Parker had commanded the ship for 5 years, and he had never seen anything like the alien vessels they were now hunting. "Dr. Grant," Ben said as they prepared to leave Earth orbit, "what do you think these aliens want from us?" Lisa looked at the star chart showing reported alien positions. "In my experience, when someone watches you this carefully, they are either trying to help you or trying to hurt you. Since they have not tried to communicate, I think we can rule out help." The Endeavor jumped to hyperspace, heading for the last known position of an alien watcher. Lisa spent the journey reviewing every report of alien contact. The pattern was becoming clearer. These aliens were not just watching random human activities. They were specifically studying how humans moved through space. Meanwhile, Vex 7 was growing confident in his analysis. The human movement patterns were becoming predictable. Trade ships followed economic routes. military patrols covered strategic positions. Even the humans who seemed to move randomly were actually following mathematical patterns based on resource efficiency and threat avoidance. "Begin Phase 2, Vex 7 ordered. Deploy additional sensor arrays. I want complete coverage of human space. Map every route, every pattern, every tendency. When we attack, these humans will have nowhere to hide." The Zephyrian Empire had used this same strategy 17 times before. Phase 1 involved covert observation to map basic movement patterns. Phase 2 expanded the observation network to cover all major activities. Phase 3 used advanced algorithms to predict future movements. Phase 4 was the attack. Striking at predicted positions with overwhelming force, Captain Ben Parker brought the Endeavour out of hyperspace near the coordinates where the Lucky Strike had encountered its alien shadow. The space seemed empty, but Dr. Lisa Grant was not convinced. "Captain, I am reading quantum disturbances consistent with cloaked observation posts. They might still be here, just invisible." Amy Rodriguez had joined the mission to provide tactical intelligence. She studied the sensor readings and cross-referenced them with other sighting reports. "Dr. Grant is right. The pattern suggests they have permanent observation posts, not just roving scouts. They are building a network to watch us." Lisa felt a chill as she realized what this meant. "Captain, if they are building a permanent observation network, this is not casual contact. This is preparation for something bigger." On his command ship orbiting a dead planet at the edge of human space, Vex 7 reviewed the progress reports. Phase 2 was proceeding perfectly. His sensor arrays were gathering massive amounts of data about human movement patterns. Soon the algorithms would be able to predict human actions with the same 97.3% accuracy that had made the Zephyrian Empire unstoppable. But something was different about the humans, something that Vex 7 had not yet noticed. In the 3 weeks since the Zephyrians had begun their observation, human movement patterns had started to change. Ship captains who had followed the same routes for years were suddenly taking different paths. Trade convoys were altering their schedules without apparent reason. Even military patrols were deviating from standard patterns. The humans were not aware of this change. It was happening at a subconscious level, driven by an instinct that millions of years of evolution had built into their species. When humans felt they were being watched, when something seemed not quite right, they adapted. They became unpredictable. Jake Morrison stood in his command center, unaware that humanity's greatest strength was already awakening. The aliens had come to study human movement, expecting to find the same predictable patterns they had found in 17 other civilizations. But humans were different. Humans had survived because they could sense danger and adapt to it, even when they did not understand what the danger was. Dr. Lisa Grant stared at the computer screen in disbelief. She had been analyzing human movement data for the past week, and what she found made no sense. The Endeavour floated in space near Jupiter while her team worked around the clock to understand what was happening to human behavior in space. "Captain Parker," she called out, "you need to see this." Ben Parker walked over to Lisa's workstation. The screen showed movement patterns of human ships over the past month. Lines of different colors represented different types of vessels: blue for military, green for civilian, red for commercial. What should have been orderly patterns looked like someone had thrown colored string at the screen. "What am I looking at?" Ben asked. "This is human movement in space over the last 30 days, Lisa explained. "Look at this trade route between Earth and Mars. For 5 years, cargo ships have used the same basic path. But 3 weeks ago, they started taking random detours. Some ships are going through the asteroid belt, others are swinging wide around Venus. There is no logical reason for these changes." Amy Rodriguez joined them at the workstation. She had been reviewing military patrol reports and found the same strange behavior. "It is not just civilian ships," she said. "Our own military patrols are acting weird too. Commander Morrison sent me 12 reports of patrol captains requesting permission to change their routes. When asked why, they all said the same thing: something just felt wrong about their usual paths." Lisa pulled up another screen showing civilian traffic. Look at this. Personal spacecraft, vacation ships, even medical transports. Everyone is changing their movement patterns. But here is the strange part. No one is doing it on purpose. Ship captains are making these changes based on feelings, hunches, and gut instincts. Ben frowned as he studied the data. Are you saying that humans are becoming unpredictable without realizing it? That is exactly what I am saying, Lisa replied. And I think I know why. 3 weeks ago was when we first detected the alien watchers. Even though most people do not know about the aliens, something in human psychology is responding to being observed. Meanwhile, in human space, Captain Tony Williams was having a conversation that would prove Lisa's theory. Tony had been running cargo between Earth and the outer colonies for 15 years. He knew every safe route, every shortcut, and every efficient path through the solar system. But today, as he prepared to leave Earth orbit with a load of medical supplies, something felt wrong. "Control, this is cargo ship Blue Moon requesting permission to alter course," Tony said into his communication system. "Blue Moon, your filed flight plan is the most efficient route to your destination," came the reply from Earth Traffic Control. "Is there a mechanical problem?" Tony looked at his instruments. Everything was working perfectly. His ship was in good condition, the route was clear of hazards, and the weather reports showed no solar storms. But he could not shake the feeling that he should not take his usual path. "Negative on mechanical problems, Control. I just want to take the long way around today. Call it pilot's intuition." The traffic controller paused. "Blue Moon, you are the 7th cargo ship today to request a route change for no apparent reason." "Are you sure everything is okay?" Tony thought about it. "You know what, Control? I have been flying the same routes for years. Maybe it is time to mix things up a bit. Keep things interesting." This conversation was happening all across human space. Ship captains who had never deviated from their routes were suddenly feeling the need to try something different. Passengers were changing their travel plans at the last minute. Even space station commanders were altering their operational schedules. Without being able to explain why, Dr. Lisa Grant discovered that this was not random behavior. It was a pattern of anti-patterns. Humans were unconsciously making themselves unpredictable in response to a threat they could sense but not identify. "Captain Parker," Lisa said during their morning briefing, "I need to contact Commander Morrison immediately. What we are seeing here is not just interesting, it might be humanity's survival mechanism activating." The call to Earth Defense Station Alpha went through on quantum communication. Jake Morrison appeared on the screen, looking tired from weeks of trying to understand the alien watchers. "Commander," Lisa began, "we have discovered something important about human behavior in response to the alien observation. Humans are becoming unpredictable, not by choice but by instinct." Jake leaned forward. "Explain that, Doctor." "Think about it this way," Lisa said. "For millions of years, humans survived by being able to sense when predators were watching them. Even when they could not see the threat, they could feel it. This created an evolutionary response. When humans sense they are being hunted, they become erratic and unpredictable." Amy Rodriguez added her analysis. "The same thing is happening now in space. People cannot see the alien watchers, but something in their subconscious knows they are there. So humans are automatically becoming harder to predict." Jake was quiet for a moment as he considered this information. "Are you telling me that our entire species is unconsciously adapting to being observed by aliens?" "That is exactly what I'm telling you," Lisa replied. "And if the aliens are trying to map our movement patterns to predict our behavior, this adaptation might be our greatest defense." On his command ship, Strategic Coordinator Vex 7 was experiencing frustration for the first time in his military career. The human movement data his sensors were collecting was becoming increasingly chaotic. Where his algorithms had initially detected clear patterns, now there was only confusion. "Analysis Coordinator Zek 4, Vex 7 called out, explain these readings." "To me," Zek 4 approached with several data displays. "Strategic Coordinator, the human patterns are degrading. 3 weeks ago, our prediction algorithms had achieved 89% accuracy in forecasting human ship movements. Today, that accuracy has dropped to 23%. That is impossible, Vex 7 said. No species becomes less predictable over time. Predictability increases as we gather more data. The humans appear to be changing their behavior, Zek 4 explained. Ships that previously followed efficient routes are now taking random paths. Military patrols that maintained defensive formations are now moving in apparently chaotic patterns. Even their civilian traffic has become erratic. Vex 7 studied the data himself. In his experience with 17 other civilizations, observation led to better prediction, not worse. Species continued their normal patterns because they were unaware of being watched, but humans seem to be doing the opposite. Increase observation intensity, Vex 7 ordered. Deploy additional sensor arrays. If the humans are changing their patterns, we need more data to map their new behaviors. This decision would prove to be a critical mistake. By increasing their observation efforts, the Zephyrians were triggering an even stronger response from human survival instincts. Back on Earth, Cargo Captain Susan Davis was preparing for a routine supply run to the Mars colonies. She had made this trip hundreds of times and could navigate the route in her sleep. But as she powered up her ship's engines, she felt an overwhelming urge to try a completely different approach. "Computer, plot a course to Mars using the scenic route through the outer asteroid belt," she commanded. "Warning," her ship's computer replied, "that route will increase travel time by 40% and fuel consumption by 25%. Susan paused. She had no logical reason to take the longer route. Her cargo was not time-sensitive, but the extra fuel cost would come out of her profit. Still, something told her that avoiding her usual path was important. Plot the course anyway, she decided. Sometimes you have to trust your gut. Similar decisions were being made throughout human space. Dr. Lisa Grant's team documented case after case of humans making choices that seemed irrational but felt right. The collective effect was that human movement in space was becoming genuinely random. "Captain Parker," Lisa said as they reviewed the latest data, "I think we are witnessing something remarkable. Human unpredictability is not a weakness. It might be our species' greatest strength." Ben nodded as he looked at the chaotic movement patterns on the screen. "If aliens are trying to study us to predict our actions and we are becoming unpredictable in response to being studied, then we have turned their weapon against them." Amy Rodriguez smiled as she realized the implications. "They came here to map our patterns so they could defeat us. But the act of mapping our patterns is causing us to have no patterns at all." The Endeavour continued its mission to track the alien watchers, but now with a new understanding. Humanity was not just being observed, humanity was unconsciously fighting back through the simple act of being impossible to predict. As Lisa Grant prepared her report for Commander Morrison, she realized that the aliens had made a fundamental error. They had assumed that intelligence created predictability, but human intelligence had evolved differently. It had learned that survival sometimes required abandoning logic and trusting instinct. The aliens were about to discover that studying humans was very different from understanding them. Strategic Coordinator Vex 7 stood before the massive tactical display in his command center, watching red error messages cascade across the screen. For the first time in his military career, the prediction algorithms were failing completely. The humans had become impossible to track, and this defied everything the Zephyrian Empire knew about warfare. "Deploy Phase 2 Enhancement Protocol," Vex 7 ordered his tactical staff. "I want sensor arrays at every major intersection of human space. If we cannot predict their individual movements, we will map every possible route they could take." This decision marked the beginning of the Zephyrian Empire's downfall, though Vex 7 did not know it yet. By expanding their observation network in a predictable pattern, the aliens were about to give humanity the advantage they needed on the research ship Endeavour. Dr. Lisa Grant was making connections that would change the course of the conflict. She had been tracking the alien observation posts for weeks, and their expansion pattern was becoming clear. "Captain Parker," she called out from her workstation, "I need you to see something important." Then Parker walked over to where Lisa was. displaying a three-dimensional map of human space. Red dots marked confirmed alien observation posts, and yellow dots showed predicted future positions. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" Ben asked. "This is the alien expansion pattern," Lisa explained. "They are not placing their observation posts randomly. They follow a specific protocol, establish primary coverage of major routes, then add secondary posts to fill gaps, then deploy tertiary arrays for complete surveillance coverage." Amy Rodriguez joined them at the display. "You mean they are predictable?" "Exactly," Lisa said with excitement. "They study other species by following a standard procedure. Look at this pattern. It is mathematical, logical, and completely predictable. They will place their next observation post here." She pointed to a location near the Saturn trade routes. Captain Parker understood immediately. "If we know where they will be before they get there, we can turn the tables on them," Lisa nodded. "They came here to predict our movements so they could defeat us. But their own movements follow a pattern we can predict. The hunters are about to become the hunted." The communication to Earth Defense Station Alpha was marked with highest priority. Jake Morrison appeared on the screen within minutes, flanked by his senior staff. "Commander," Lisa began, "we have discovered that the aliens are following predictable protocols in their observation of humanity. We know where they will deploy their next sensor array." Jake leaned forward with interest. "Are you proposing we attack them?" "I am proposing we capture one of their posts," Lisa replied. "We need to understand their technology and their intentions. But more importantly, we need to send them a message that humans are not passive subjects for study." Amy Rodriguez displayed the tactical analysis. "Sir, the aliens expect us to be where their predictions say we should be. They do not expect us to be where they will be. We can use their own predictability against them." Jake Morrison made a decision that would echo through the galaxy. "Captain Parker, you are authorized to proceed with a capture mission. Dr. Grant, I want to know everything about these aliens, who they are, what they want, and why they think they can study humanity without permission." The next phase of the operation required careful timing. The Endeavour would need to reach the predicted alien position before the aliens deployed their observation post, but after they had committed to that location. It was a narrow window, but Lisa's analysis of their expansion pattern was precise. "Captain." Ben Parker brought his ship out of hyperspace at the edge of the Saturn system. According to Dr. Grant's calculations, the aliens would deploy their next sensor array near the major shipping lane between Saturn and Jupiter. The Endeavour took position behind a small moon and waited. "Contact in 15 minutes, Amy Rodriguez reported from the sensor station. "One alien vessel approaching the predicted coordinates?" Lisa watched her screens with nervous anticipation. If her analysis was wrong, the Endeavour would be discovered and possibly destroyed. If she was right, humanity would capture its first alien prisoner and turn the tide of this strange conflict. "Alien vessel is deploying sensor equipment," Amy announced. "They are exactly where Dr. Grant predicted they would be." The alien ship was unlike anything in human design. It was crystalline in appearance, with surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. But despite its advanced technology, it was following the same predictable protocol that had served the Zephyrian Empire for centuries. "Move us into position," Captain Parker ordered. "Let us show these aliens what unpredictability looks like." The Endeavour emerged from behind the moon at full speed, catching the alien vessel completely by surprise. The Zephyrians were so focused on deploying their sensor array and scanning for human ships in predicted locations that they never considered the possibility of humans appearing where the aliens themselves were working. "Alien vessel, this is Captain Ben Parker of the Earth research ship Endeavour," Ben transmitted on all frequencies. "You have been conducting unauthorized surveillance of human space. Shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded." On the alien vessel, Tactical Coordinator Fen 2 stared at his displays in shock. The human ship had appeared from nowhere, with no warning from their prediction algorithms. This was impossible, according to everything the Zephyrian Empire knew about warfare. "Strategic Coordinator Vex 7, Fen 2 transmitted to the command ship. The humans have appeared at our deployment site. Our prediction algorithms gave no warning of their approach. Vex 7 received the transmission with disbelief. That is impossible. Repeat your position and tactical situation. The humans predicted our location, Fen 2 replied. They were waiting for us. For the first time in his career, Vex 7 experienced something the Zephyrian Empire had thought they had eliminated from warfare: surprise. The humans had done something that should have been impossible. They had outpredicted the predictors. On the Endeavor, Dr. Lisa Grant was coordinating the boarding operation. The alien vessel had not resisted capture, apparently as confused by the situation as they were surprised. Human Marines in environmental suits crossed to the crystalline ship and found the crew waiting in what appeared to be a state of shock. Captain Parker, Lisa reported, we have successfully captured the alien vessel and its crew. The aliens appeared to be in some kind of psychological distress. Psychological distress? Ben asked. Their entire worldview seems to have been shattered. Lisa explained. They keep asking our Marines how we predicted their position. Apparently, being outpredicted is something that has never happened to them before. The captured aliens were brought aboard the Endeavor for questioning. Strategic. Coordinator Vex 7's subordinate, Analysis Coordinator Zek 4, was among the prisoners. When Dr. Grant began her interrogation, she discovered something remarkable about the alien empire. Your species has conquered other civilizations by predicting their movements? Lisa asked through the translation device they had established. Prediction is the foundation of all successful warfare, Zek 4 replied. We study a species until we understand their movement patterns, then we strike where they will be, not where they are. How many species have you conquered this way? 17 civilizations have joined the Zephyrian Empire through our predictive warfare doctrine. The method has never failed. Lisa felt a chill as she realized the scope of what humanity was facing. What happens to species that refuse to join your empire? Zek 4's response was matter of fact. Refusal is irrelevant. Once we can predict a species' movements, resistance becomes impossible. They cannot fight effectively if we know where they will be before they know it themselves. But you cannot predict human movements, Lisa pointed out. This is the source of our confusion, Zek 4 admitted. Human behavior appears to defy the mathematical principles that govern all intelligent life. Your species makes decisions that serve no logical purpose. Captain Parker joined the interrogation session. Maybe that is because you do not understand the purpose behind human decisions. We do not just respond to logic, we respond to intuition, emotion, and instinct. Zek 4 seemed genuinely puzzled, but intuition and emotion are inefficient. They lead to suboptimal choices and wasted resources. They also lead to survival, Lisa replied. A species that is completely predictable can be completely controlled. Humans stayed alive by being impossible to predict. Amy Rodriguez had been analyzing the captured alien technology while the interrogation continued. What she found confirmed Dr. Grant's theories about human unpredictability being their greatest strength. Captain, Amy reported, the alien sensor arrays are incredibly sophisticated. They can track quantum signatures, predict movement based on gravitational influences, and even map the psychological patterns of individual ship captains. But they all assume that the target species will continue behaving logically. What happens when the target species stops being logical? Ben asked. The entire system fails, Amy replied. Their technology is designed to enhance predictability, not handle unpredictability. They literally cannot process truly random behavior. Dr. Lisa Grant realized that humanity had stumbled upon something extraordinary. The aliens had brought the most advanced prediction technology in the galaxy to study humans. The interrogation room aboard the research ship Endeavor was unlike anything Analysis Coordinator Zek 4 had ever experienced. For the first time in his career serving the Zephyrian Empire, he was the one being studied rather than studying others. Dr. Lisa Grant sat across from him, her recording devices capturing every word of their conversation. I need to understand your empire's methods, Lisa said calmly. How exactly do you conquer other civilizations? Zek-4's crystalline features showed what might have been confusion. Conquest is achieved through superior prediction. We observe a species until we understand their movement patterns, their decision-making processes, their response to threats. Once we can predict their actions with sufficient accuracy, victory becomes inevitable. You make it sound like a mathematical equation, Lisa observed. It is a mathematical equation, Zek-4 replied. Intelligent behavior follows logical patterns. Resource acquisition, territory defense, threat avoidance, reproduction priorities, these drives create predictable responses in all intelligent species. Captain Ben Parker joined the interrogation session. All intelligent species except humans? Humans appear to be an anomaly, Zek-4 admitted. Your species makes decisions that do not serve logical purposes. Ships take inefficient routes without justification. Military forces alter defensive patterns without tactical reason. Individual humans change their plans based on what you call feelings or hunches. Dr. Lisa Grant leaned forward with interest. And this troubles your empire? It breaks our fundamental understanding of intelligent life, Zek-4 explained. For over 300 years, the Zephyrian Empire has based its expansion on the principle that intelligence creates predictability. We have studied 17 different species across the galaxy, and all of them followed discoverable patterns. Tell me about those other species, Lisa requested. Zek-4 seemed almost eager to discuss familiar territory. The Zilarian Collective was a hive mind species. Their movements were based on resource optimization algorithms that never varied. The Kronos Federation was a logical empire that made all decisions through mathematical analysis. The Ethereal Communion operated on pure instinct, but instinct follows biological patterns that can be mapped. Captain Parker was taking notes as Zek-4 continued. Each species we encountered had their own approach to survival and expansion, but all approaches were based on consistent principles. Logic, instinct, efficiency, optimization, these create patterns that can be studied and predicted. But not humans, Lisa said. Humans use logic when it suits them, then abandon logic. For emotion, Zek-4 replied with what sounded like frustration. You make efficient choices, then deliberately choose inefficiency for variety? You follow survival instincts, then ignore those same instincts based on abstract concepts like honor or curiosity. Dr. Lisa Grant was beginning to understand something profound about humanity's place in the galaxy. You are describing human free will, she said. The ability to choose actions that are not predetermined by logic, instinct, or programming. Free will is inefficient, Zek-4 stated. It leads to suboptimal outcomes and wasted resources. It also leads to survival, Captain Parker pointed out. A species that is completely predictable can be completely controlled. Humans survived because predators could never be sure what we would do next. Amy Rodriguez entered the interrogation room with data from her analysis of the captured alien technology. Dr. Grant, you need to see what we found in their computer systems. The data Amy presented was staggering. The Zephyrian Empire maintained detailed files on 17 conquered civilizations, complete with prediction models, conquest timelines, and post-conquest integration protocols. Each civilization had been studied for months or years before the Empire struck with overwhelming force at predicted positions. They do not just defeat other species, Amy explained. They absorb them into their empire using the same prediction technology. Once they understand how a species thinks, they can control how that species behaves. Lisa felt sick as she realized the implications. They turn prediction into a form of mental slavery. It is not slavery, Zek-4 protested. It is optimization. Each species contributes their strengths to the empire while having their weaknesses corrected through predictive guidance. You mean you control them, Captain Parker said angrily. We optimize them, Zek-4 insisted. The Zilarian Collective is more efficient as part of our empire. The Kronos Federation makes better logical decisions with our guidance. All member species benefit from integration. Dr. Lisa Grant studied the alien's expression carefully. But you cannot integrate humans because you cannot predict us. This is correct, Zek-4 admitted. Human unpredictability makes integration impossible. You cannot be optimized if your behavior cannot be mapped. So what is your empire plan? To do about humanity? For the first time in the conversation, Zek-4 seemed uncertain. This situation has never occurred before. Strategic Coordinator Vex-7 is consulting with the High Command to determine appropriate protocols for dealing with an unpredictable species. Amy Rodriguez had been monitoring Zephyrian communications since the capture. Dr. Grant, I think you should know that their High Command is not handling this situation well. We are intercepting messages that suggest significant disagreement among their leadership about how to proceed. What kind of disagreement? Lisa asked. Some want to increase observation efforts and deploy more advanced prediction technology, Amy explained. Others are suggesting that humans represent a threat to their entire conquest doctrine and should be eliminated rather than conquered. Captain Parker felt a chill. They are talking about genocide because they cannot predict us. From their perspective, an unpredictable species threatens the foundation of their empire, Lisa realized. If other conquered species learn that predictability can be overcome, it could lead to revolts. Zek-4 confirmed her fears. The empire is built on the principle that intelligence creates predictability. If humans prove this principle false, it could destabilize our control over 17 other civilizations. So you would rather destroy us than admit your principles might be wrong? Captain Parker said with disgust. The empire must be preserved, Zek-4 replied. 17 species depend on Zephyrian guidance for optimal existence. Dr. Lisa Grant stood up from the interrogation table. I think we have learned enough for now. Amy, prepare a full report for Commander Morrison. He needs to understand that we are not just dealing with invasion, we are dealing with a philosophical conflict between two different approaches to intelligence. What do you mean? Amy asked. The Zephyrian Empire believes that intelligence should create predictability, control, and optimization, Lisa explained. Humans represent the opposite philosophy that intelligence should preserve freedom, choice, and the ability to be unpredictable. As the Endeavour prepared to jump back to Earth with its alien prisoners, Dr. Lisa Grant reflected on what humanity had stumbled into. They were not just facing a military threat. They were facing an empire whose entire existence was based on principles that human nature violated. Captain Ben Parker joined her in the observation lounge as they watched the stars preparing for hyperspace jump. Doctor, do you think humans can survive a war against an empire that has conquered 17 other civilizations? I think humans can survive anything, Lisa replied. But more importantly, I think we represent something the galaxy has never seen before. A species that refuses to be optimized, controlled, or predicted. And that scares them? That terrifies them, Lisa confirmed. We are living proof that their entire empire is built on a false foundation. Intelligence does not have to create predictability. It can create freedom instead. The hyperspace jump engaged, carrying the Endeavour and its alien prisoners toward Earth. Dr. Lisa Grant knew that when they arrived, humanity would face its greatest challenge yet, defending not just their territory, but their right to remain unpredictable in a galaxy where predictability had become a form of control. In the detention area, Analysis Coordinator Zek-4 sat in his cell wondering if the Zephyrian Empire had finally encountered something it could not understand or control. For 3 centuries, his people had brought order and predictability to the galaxy. Now they faced a species that turned chaos into strength and made unpredictability into a weapon. For the first time in his life, Zek-4 began to question whether the Empire's principles were as universal as he had been taught. Perhaps intelligence could take forms that the Zephyrian Empire had never imagined. Perhaps there was value in the human approach of embracing uncertainty rather than eliminating it. These thoughts troubled Zek-4 deeply, because they were themselves unpredictable thoughts that violated his own training. Somehow, just by being around humans, he was becoming less predictable himself. The war between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire began not with a declaration, but with a philosophical disagreement that the aliens could not tolerate. High command of the Zephyrian Empire had reached a unanimous decision: humanity represented. Such a threat to their doctrine of predictable intelligence that they must be eliminated before other species learned that unpredictability was possible. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the main briefing room at Earth Defense Station Alpha, addressing the largest gathering of human military commanders in history. Representatives from Mars, Europa, Titan, and the outer colonies had traveled to Earth to hear Dr. Lisa Grant's report on the alien empire and plan humanity's response to the coming invasion. The enemy we face has conquered 17 civilizations. Using prediction technology, Jake explained to the assembled commanders, they study their targets until they can predict every movement, then strike with overwhelming force at the exact locations where their enemies will be. Admiral Karen Walsh from the Mars Defense Force raised her hand. Commander Morrison, if they can predict every movement, how do we fight them? Dr. Lisa Grant stepped forward to answer. Admiral, we fight them by being unpredictable. The very quality that makes us human, our ability to act on instinct, emotion, and random impulse, is something their technology cannot process. Captain Ben Parker, newly promoted to Admiral for his role in capturing the alien observation post, added his perspective. We have tested their prediction algorithms using the captured alien prisoners. When we behave logically, they can predict our actions with 90% accuracy. When we act on human instinct and make decisions that seem random, their accuracy drops to less than 20%. General Rick Martinez from the Earth Ground Defense Corps looked skeptical. Are you asking us to abandon military doctrine and fight randomly? Not randomly, Lisa corrected. Unpredictably, there is a difference. Random behavior serves no purpose. Unpredictable behavior serves the purpose of survival by making it impossible for enemies to anticipate our actions. Jake Morrison outlined the strategy that would become known as the Chaos Protocol. Every engagement with the enemy will operate under new principles. No battle plans will be finalized until the moment of combat. Ship commanders will be encouraged to trust their instincts over tactical doctrine. Units will be allowed to improvise and adapt without waiting for orders from headquarters. Admiral Susan Lee from the Outer Colony Defense Fleet raised a concern. Commander, this approach sounds like it could lead to complete breakdown of military coordination. How do we maintain unit cohesion if everyone is acting unpredictably? Captain Ben Parker answered from his experience aboard the Endeavour. Admiral, human unpredictability is not chaos. Humans have evolved to cooperate unpredictably. We can work together while still being impossible for outsiders to predict. Amy Rodriguez, now promoted to Intelligence Director, presented the tactical analysis. The enemy empire operates on the assumption that intelligence creates logical behavior patterns. They deploy their forces based on where their computers tell them we should be. If we are not where their predictions say we should be, their entire advantage disappears. The first test of the Chaos Protocol came 2 weeks later when Zephyrian scouts probed the outer defenses of human space. War Coordinator Tex 3 of the Empire had deployed a reconnaissance force of 30 ships to map human defensive positions and confirm the prediction models before the main invasion. Captain Tony Williams, the cargo hauler who had first started taking random routes weeks earlier, was now commanding a patrol vessel in the outer solar system. His ship, the Defiant Star, was part of a squadron tasked with intercepting the alien scouts. All ships, this is Captain Williams, Tony transmitted to his squadron. The enemy expects us to form a defensive screen around the shipping lanes. I suggest we do something they will not predict. What do you have in mind, Captain? Asked Lieutenant Susan Davis, who had transferred from cargo hauling to military service. Let us spread out across the entire outer system and move in patterns that make no tactical sense, Tony replied. If they are trying to map our defenses, let us give them a map that leads nowhere. The human squadron scattered across millions of kilometers of space, moving in seemingly random patterns that violated every principle of fleet coordination. Some ships moved toward the enemy, others moved away. Some accelerated, others decelerated. From the perspective of military doctrine, it looked like complete chaos. War Coordinator Tex 3 watched the human response with growing confusion. His prediction algorithms were generating error messages as they tried to analyze human fleet movements. According to Zephyrian military science, the human response made no sense. Tactical Analysis Coordinator, explain the human formation, Tex 3 demanded. War Coordinator, there is no formation, came the reply. The human ships appear to be moving independently without coordination. Our prediction models cannot identify their strategy because their movements serve no apparent tactical purpose. All movement serves a tactical purpose, Tex 3 insisted. Increase analysis intensity. There must be a pattern we are missing, but there was no pattern to miss. The human ships were operating under the Chaos Protocol, making decisions based on individual judgment and instinct rather than predetermined strategy. Captain Tony Williams was following a hunch that told him to position his ship near a small asteroid. Lieutenant Susan Davis felt drawn to investigate an unusual energy reading that her instruments could barely detect. Each human commander was trusting their intuition over logic. The result was devastating for the Zephyrian scouts. Instead of encountering a predictable defensive formation, they found themselves surrounded by human ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. The humans struck with coordinated unpredictability, working together while remaining impossible to predict individually. War Coordinator, reported Scout Leader Yex-9, we are under attack by human forces at positions our models indicated should be empty space. How did they know where to position their ambush? Tex 3 had no answer. The humans had not positioned an ambush at all. They had simply scattered randomly and happened to surround the alien scouts through what appeared to be pure chance. But it was not chance. It was human intuition working at a subconscious level. To create effective tactics without logical planning, the defeat of the reconnaissance force sent shockwaves through the Zephyrian Empire. For the first time in their history, their prediction technology had not just failed, it had been turned into a liability. The more they tried to predict human behavior, the more unpredictable humans became. Strategic Coordinator Vex 7 received emergency authorization to deploy the main invasion fleet. If the Empire could not predict human movements, they would overwhelm humanity with sheer numbers. The invasion force consisted of over 300 ships carrying enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Dr. Lisa Grant, now serving as strategic advisor to the human fleet, was aboard the command ship Unity when the alien invasion force emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. The sight was terrifying, more ships than humanity had ever seen in one place, arrayed in perfect formation and advancing with mechanical precision. Admiral Morrison, Lisa said, their fleet formation is absolutely perfect from a tactical standpoint. They have positioned their ships for maximum firepower concentration and mutual support. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral and Commander of the combined human fleet, studied the alien formation, which means they expect us to respond with equally logical tactics. Exactly, Lisa replied. Their entire battle plan is based on engaging an enemy that will fight according to established military principles. Admiral Ben Parker commanded the largest group of human ships, but instead of arranging them in traditional battle formation, he had authorized his commanders to position themselves wherever they felt would be most effective. The result looked like chaos to any observer trained in conventional military tactics. All ships, Jake transmitted to the human fleet, remember the Chaos Protocol. Trust your instincts. Support your fellow humans. Make decisions that feel right rather than decisions that look right on tactical displays. The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for generations, though they would never fully understand how humanity achieved victory. The Zephyrian fleet advanced according to mathematical precision, concentrating firepower on positions where their computers predicted human ships should be. But the human ships were not where logic suggested they should be, Captain. Tony Williams found himself thinking about his old cargo routes as he maneuvered his ship through the battle. Something told him to approach the enemy fleet from the same angle he used to avoid solar storms when hauling freight. The approach made no tactical sense, but it felt right. Lieutenant Susan Davis followed her instinct to support Tony's ship, even though her tactical display showed no logical reason for the maneuver. Other human commanders made similar choices, creating a pattern of mutual support that emerged organically from individual decisions. The Zephyrian War Coordinator Tex 3 watched in horror as his carefully planned battle dissolved into chaos. Human ships appeared where his predictions said they could not be. Coordinated attacks emerged from formations that his computers insisted were impossible.